Try this again. What's my issue? The what? Oh, stream your. Okay. Game capture 2. What about it? Yep. Trans. Transform. Edit transform. Mm-hmm. Okay. Control left. Nope. Oh. There we go. How about now? Oh man. So if I go into med 2 right now, it should. Nothing? See anything? What? Ah, I just did it. It's definitely running. But there's. It's not. There's just black screen again. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So get rid of game capture. Display capture. Huh. Oh, would you look at that? All right, we're good. This is funny. All right. Thank you, Jairo. You tell me, join the stream and tell me if you see it on YouTube. Oh, perfect. All right. Jeez. Miserable. No, I don't. All right. Cool. Let's see if. Well, it looks like it's only going to be me on the stream. Listen to that beautiful music. All right. We'll give it a few more minutes for people to join. There's like a 2 minute delay. So we'll wait a few minutes for people to show up, ask their questions, and I'll go faction by faction. Hey, Stewie. So currently we have around, I want to say, 150 regions. I know that Vision is adding more, so we get the full 199 with 200 as the water tile. But this is not the updated map. Vision hasn't he hasn't responded lately, so the mountains are a little weird. They're all green instead of snow cap. Um, but as you can see, I think he's doing water too. Doing a little work on the Girdle Million, expanding the rivers so both boats can go through them. Yeah, it's a good map. Just needs a little retouching. Trees are moving. It's always good. Yeah, you can see the mountains here. They're a little odd. Yeah, a lot of these regions are, I guess, technically non-canonical. Um, some of them are different names for canonical places. So, like, let's see, Nuoth is canonical. Right next to it, we made a region in the foothills, so those would be the the hills of Nuoth. So Amon Nuoth. The Silmarillion map that Tolkien made for Beleriand was was pretty in depth, but as far as like city names, not so much. Regions, he was pretty thorough, but the actual villages or cities within those places, not so much. So you can expect, I think Vision was going to add quite a few more in this foothills of Assyrian area. So like in between Assyrian and the dwarves, just so there's some little more of a buffer, so you don't have dwarves and Assyrian just walking into each other's places immediately. Um, Probably going to be me more up here from the Easterlings because these regions are massive. Yeah, there's so 150-ish regions right now. If we add 45 more, which is the plan, these huge regions you see are definitely going to be cut down. Yeah, don't worry so much about the huge regions. They will not make it through testing. They'll be split up. See, will there be detailed terrain like in Call of Warhammer? I should say, first of all, nothing I'm saying is official. These are just my thoughts off the top of my head. I don't have much to do with the actual development and scripting of the campaign. I'm just mostly doing text at the moment. But I do know that, yes, there will be detailed terrain, different river crossings with bridges, forested regions. Yeah, couple more minutes and then we'll start going through the factions. All right. Well, let me answer these questions first, and then we'll start with Assyrian. How will characters such as Melian be implemented? So, I'm sure Melian will be a character, probably in the family tree, and I'm sure there will be some sort of scripts with her. We have the girdle already in here, if you can see Doriath right here. Currently, the girdle is just a really thick barrier of trees. So I believe that's going to be changed in some way. I think EOP allows for an easier way to implement the girdle to, prevent passage through Doriath and, you know, show some sort of a blocker. Legendary companies. So, if you've played multiplayer at all, or if you're in testers, the legendary companies are basically our take on the regiments of renown from Warhammer. So, for example, Assyrian, they have a legendary company called the Andi Hondo. They are armor piercing ranger units. Basically, they are an upgraded version of an already existing unit in the roster. They fill a specific need for that faction that they otherwise wouldn't. So Assyrian doesn't have much AP, so we gave them a legendary company that is an AP archer. Um, let's see here. Feanor, theirs is the accursed. They have it's essentially an upgraded version of the Defenders of Aglon, but it's relentless. The stats are a bit higher. It's a pretty good unit. They fill holes in the roster is essentially it. For generals with unique bodyguards, will they ever be able to get free upgrade inside settlements? Uh, not sure about that. That's definitely a J Monster question or a Finn question. I'm sure I'm sure we'll have discussions about it. Maglor's horse archers in the game are called Riders of the Pass, I believe. Those are Maglors. How will stuff get to Doriath with the girdle in place? Will it be a scripted event when playing as Morgoth to break through? Again, this is all hypothetical and off the top of my head, still discussing it. My guess is that you will be able to invade Doriath at any time, but as you can see, there is this girdle of trees. It'll have it'll have limited openings, and if Doriath decides to, go out in the open and wage war, girdle opens up. Or if there's a Silmaril script or some sort, and yeah, I think J Monster is also working on on a Glaurung model. I'm not sure it'll be winged and flying, but he does have one. All right, let's start with the factions. So, Southeast Assyrian will start in this area. Tol Galen will be their capital. The river fortress, river paradise, I guess, so to speak. It's where Baron and Luthien came after they were resurrected. And then eventually they died again. But Assyrian is Tol Galen, and then they have a region for each of these rivers. Whether they start with all of them, not sure yet, but Adarant, Dwelin, Brilthor, Legoland, Talos, and Rathloriel. since they are a mostly skirmish and kiting faction. Their main opponents from the start, of course, will probably be the dwarves, right on their doorstep. And to the west of them is the unplayable faction of Tower and Duinoth. This region will also get some more, some extra regions. They'll be unplayable, but Assyrian will probably be able to recruit some of their units at some point. Whether they build a specific building, go a certain path as far as decision making. Yeah. Big region. Cool units. Fun faction. Going further west, Havens Assyrian, Isle of Balar, right here. The Havens of Eglares and Brithambar, and the Tower of Bar Nimras. My guess would be that would be the starting location for Falas. They are the mariners of Balerion, so they will have ships that can traverse these rivers and an actual navy. Most of Balerion is landlocked, so the other factions won't have the ability to have a navy. They'll have transport ships just so they can, traverse all the rivers that Balerion has. But Falas are the only ones that have an established navy, which makes sense because they're on the coast. Further up, here's Vinyamar. That's where the people of Gondolin were before they moved to Gondolin. Here is Mithram, also an unplayable faction. There'll be a vassal of sorts for Fingolfin, who starts right here, right to the east of them, Paradithel. Cool place. So, Darthonian, a little farther to the east of them. This will be one of the two starting locations for Fenarfin. Ladros, Tarnaluian, Tarnos, Rivel's Well. In between them, Tol and Gowerhoth, which, as J Monster has talked about before, as a Stewie, they will start off as a horde faction. They'll start their campaign attempting to take Minas Tirith from Fenarfin. And if they do, it becomes Tol and Gowerhoth, and that's where you start. To the south is the people of Haleth, centered here on Effiel Brandir. Nice little hill. A lot of villages around it. Farther south, they have another possible place, Amon Rud, where the petty dwarves were. Directly to the east of them, Doriath, with their 4 big regions of Neldarath, Menegrath, Regian. Nargothrond, right here, right on the river. Angband, where it should be, way up in the top. Thangorodrim, the Gates, Dordadaloth. Let's see here. Feanor, already here. Himmering, March of Maedros, Mount Rivier, Himlad, Pass of Aguilon. Yep, it'll start
right before the Braggalock. So my hope is that the beginning of the campaign will start with the Braggalack. So you'll have all the elven characters fighting, all the human characters present, so to speak.
Yep, there is a region for Nan Elmouth. It is right to the east of Doriath, right here. It's a forest separated from Doriath, right here. I'm afraid to click the actual armies in the city, mostly because Vision has yet to implement his map. And God knows if I do that, it might crash on me. But so yeah, Easterlings in the northeast. I know Jay Mustard has talked possibly of splitting them up between good and evil Easterlings, but we shall see. Hasn't been in testers yet, so I don't know. They'll be up here. They'll have their own, double capitals for their double tribes. Boar and Olfang. Boar is more the heavier armored, sturdy, defensive subfaction. Olfang's units are more aggressive, lots of charge, lots of axe throwers. Feanor is a cav heavy faction, heavy armor, less skilled than the other elves, but cav faction, lots of armor, very sturdy. Hangban, typical orcs, lots of armor though, because they're full of iron. Monsters, orcs, trolls, Sauron, Golfin right here. More skill, less armor, but they also can bring sub-faction Mithram units at some point. They also have lots of very good Dorloman units. Edain of the House of Hador. Gondolin is, well, it's Gondolin. So they have their assortment of every unit type you can think of. You bring them all at some point. In between Doriath and the highlands of Dorthorion, where Finarfin has some of their troops. This is where, the monsters of Nan Dungorthab are. Also an unplayable faction. They're just here as a little buffer between. So Doriath doesn't have too easy of a start. So Feanor can't just expand. Gondolin can't expand. There's something in the way. will turn be scripted? Yeah. Huh. I'm sure there'll be a turn script. Turn arrives to Nagarthron. You let him in, he starts militarizing the place. You get access to heavier units like the bridge wards, the wards of Nargothrond, all those heavy armor, awesome defensive units, but triggering Glaurung's invasion. So you have your choices. You can listen to Turin or not. Years of the Lamps total when. That's some interesting stuff. That's some high level Tolkien Tolkien literature right there. That's that might break my PC. Turin did nothing wrong. Right. I agree. Should have built a bigger army, I suppose, or maybe not so big of a bridge. Maybe plus maybe not one directly to the city. Maybe a little to the south here. Medic. What is each team member's favorite type of thing to add to the mod? Well, it's a little cheap of me, but I do tech stuff. So all the unit, region, faction, character descriptions, I'll be doing those. And I have been using ChatGPT to do those. It's much faster, saves me so much time and headache and a lot of stress. So obviously sometimes AI gets it wrong with little details, but for the most part, if you give it a good prompt, it spits out a very cohesive, very intelligent response. I've also talked to a few other developers. They've actually been using ChatGPT to create scripts, ancillaries, um, other things like that. A lot more in depth than simple descriptions. They can literally input the file type, I guess, what do they put the structure of a file. So if you're doing build chains, you can literally copy the existing med2 entry, paste it into ChatGPT, and then tell it to, hey, create a blacksmith chain using this entry from Medieval 2. And you can detail it even more, saying blacksmith chain for, say, Feanor, using these four names for the four buildings in the build chain, and it will spit out a file entry for the build chain in exactly the way it's supposed to be formatted. So pretty easy. But I haven't delved too much into that. I just did a few tests with Stewie, and yeah, it's it's a time saver. It's a lifesaver. Just have to be very specific what you ask it, and be sure to check your work afterwards so you don't break anything. Yeah, I can't wait till Vision gets me his updated map. I think well, once Vision gets his map edits done, he will be able to use Geomod to get the rest of the factions in here. No problem. Geomod, also a lifesaver. Once the map's done, he'll be able to input the factions, their start locations, also resources. So I guess I should talk about that. Iron is the main resource for building armies. It's required for recruitment since it's the main, main mineral used throughout the world for any sort of metallurgy. So Assyrian down here won't have access to much iron right off the bat. So they won't be able to recruit nearly as high level units as, say, the dwarves to the right, Belagos, Nogrod. Lots of iron in these hills. Recruitment pools will be a lot stronger, a lot higher for those guys. But obviously, there'll be trade offs. Iron won't give them much economy. Obviously, dwarves have other things to counter that, but Assyrian obviously will have all this river trade, all this timber, probably some animals, horses. Dwarves obviously won't have either of those. No trees in the mountains, no horses, that sort of thing. Feanor, same thing. Lots of trade here with the trade routes with the dwarves. They'll have fish because they got the lake. Lots of wide open plains for horses. Probably some iron up in these hills. Probably some iron up in these hills. Doriath, obviously. Lots of timber. Lots of trade, since you can't see it on this map, but Dwarf Road runs all the way from Menergrath down here through Estolad, through the Nogrim trade post, through the Convergence, through Sarn Ethrad. That's, quote, the ford, the bridge that goes over the Dwarf Road. Continues on all the way through Rethoriel, through Mount Dolmed, and actually it goes all the way through Baleriand, all the way through Eriador, all the way through Khazad Dûm, and then later in the, I believe, Second Age, before Sauron did his thing, it even goes from Khazad Dûm through Lothlorien, across Anduin, up through Mirkwood, up to Erebor, and to the Iron Hills. So, massive road, massive trade, lots of money. Okay. Yeah, we can go through the factions now, a little more in depth, as far as units and regions. Someone can give me their preferred faction. We can look at it. We can look at it in depth. Plus, I believe Stewie's here. He's not in the voice chat, but what faction should we do first? Doriath. All right, good one. Obviously, Doriath, center of the map, one of the main players in Beleriand. King Thingol was, quote, the king of all the elves of Beleriand until the Noldor showed up. But capitals Menegroth, important regions are Neldareth, Rhegion. Those are the big three. There's also these outlying ones, Method and Glad and Nivrim. Not sure if they'll start with them or not, but they're there. Dordinen as well. Two Dordinens. Fix that. Dwarves of Belgas. Yeah, dwarves will be one faction. But Mount Dolmed in the center, Novigrad to the south, and where are you, Belgost? Belgost way to the south. Easterlings, yeah, they'll be split. They'll be up here, way in the northeast. Currently, I mean, their regions aren't done yet. There's only 4 regions up here. There'll be at least 15 when we're done. But yeah, the placement of the dwarves is debatable. So the only thing we know about the two cities, it says after the War of Wrath, when the mountain chain was broken, Belagost was in the southern chain, Nogrod was in the northern chain, and where it broke through, the south became Linden, and the north was wiped out. So I believe it broke through right here. I believe. Let's see, where is it? Here we go. He actually kind of made it here. So this is where the Gulf of Loon. The Gulf of Loon is to the south of this. It's not on the map. You can't see it. But it would have broke through here, and somewhere is our Linden region. Here it is. This whole thing is currently Linden. So rivers broke apart. Nogrod is in the north half. Belgos, southern half. So this whole thing under the sea, and you're left with Linden on the other side of this map. Actually, if you overlaid this with DACs, this would be your far western edge, and this is where your west coast is. All this is water. I think in DAC, Nograd is called what is it? I think it's Tamunzahar. I think that's the northern one. Nograd becomes Tamunzahar. Big old mountain range. Thorin's Halls are right about here in the mid. Farther south is Belagost, which is Familgothel, or one of the other ones. I don't know. One of them's Tamunzahar, one of them's Familgothel. How will the Feanorians be spread out? Well, they will be centered here. We already have them in game. So Himring is their capital. I'm assuming they will have March of Madros, Pass of Aguilon, and Mount Rerir as their starting locations. Um, Obviously, they were in the two twins were in Amon Arab for a bit, but they'll be they'll be up here close to the Easterlings, close to Angband, close to Doriath, close to the dwarves. Lots of fun diplomacy for them. No, there's also Thargelion. That's a huge region too. That's probably going to get split up. Yeah, I'll try to find a good overlay that shows you where Novgorod and Belagost are in relation to maps you already know. It's hard to look at Balerion without looking at where it flooded in. But yeah, yeah, this map we don't have the southern ocean. So like over here, this water goes all the way over here in the Gulf of Loon, and it overflows. A lot of mountains. Will you have access to all the suns at the start, or will they arrive with scripts over time? I'm thinking we'll have all of them at the start. I mean, that doesn't mean you're gonna have 7 OP general units from the start. Maybe, I mean, you'll have all the characters, but I doubt they'll be all high tier general units. You won't be able to just steamroll with them. I mean, we already have a unit dedicated to each sun, so Roqueni, Magloro, or geez, Defenders of Aguilon, Footmen, Archers, Riders of the Pass. They're all they're all in. Just a just a decision to be made about how they get implemented and what unit goes to what character. Yeah, I'd like to avoid the seven general units just running around. I think the next step for the map as well, getting some unique strat models in here. I know Carmondai is actually well on his way to getting the general strat models, so You've seen those in the Discord, but eventually all the important cities get their own cool strat models, preferably based on based on a battle map, but those take a while. Yeah, I don't know if you guys can see it, but a lot of these rivers we haven't put ports in yet. So you'll be seeing some little villages scattered throughout here. Instead of just the big cities, you'll have your little huts here and there at the intersections. Some of the edges are still a little sharp. So like around here, sharp edges, not good. Water doesn't reach the river. We're fixing it. Um, getting different tree types too. So if we go to Dorthorion is supposed to be a pine forest. Not quite pine trees, but working on it. Balas is down here on the coast. Eglarest right here. Rithambar right there. They look farther apart than they really are. Since this is one region right here, you'll be able to move fairly fairly quickly between the three of these. But Rithambar, Bar Nimras, Eglarest. Will AIS Tol and Garhas start as a horde? Yep. There'll be a horde faction. If they lose the siege, end of their campaign. They're done. Will Phalas have some bonus for ships? Yes. They already have. I believe in our multiplayer. Phalas, they get some bonuses, whether it's a price decrease or extra unit pools for their marines. They can bring five of the seafarers, four of the Brithambar marines, three of the Eglaris marines. They got lots of buildings. Phalas will be the only ones that can build full-fledged navies. All the other factions will, at the very most, build little troop transports, cogs or whatever they're called. Especially since that's the only way to get to Balar right here. Also, excuse the mini map; it's a little off. Vision overlaid it with our actual map. Doesn't quite line up yet, but getting there. Will No Way have a beard though? I'm not actually sure he will. He doesn't in our mod at the moment. His general model for Philathrum, he has no beard. I believe elves only get their beards in their third cycle of life. And at the time, Círdan was still in the second. So, still old as freaking dirt, but not quite old enough for a beard. Yeah, Círdan's definitely one of my favorite characters. It all, I mean, it goes by life ages. I don't know how, I forget how long elves' life age is, but thousands of years. So Círdan, he migrated west with the very first elves, then didn't go to Valinor with his cousins, stayed in Middle Earth, wandered for a couple more 100 years until they found Thingol, and then he stayed here again. Stayed all through the first age, all through the second age, all through the third age, and left slightly after the third age. So the Avari are right here, Tower and Dweenoth. They're unplayable in the campaign, so these three massive regions for them. This is all they have at the moment. But again, we're we're going to be adding 45 to 50 more regions. So these huge, massive regions here you see, they'll be split up. But Tower and Dweenoth is the Avari capital. Unplayable, possibly recruited by Osirian, and same sort of vassal system maybe, but big, massive forest down here. No, they did not do much, if anything, in the stories, but it's a cool story. Lots of room for interpretation. Stuff of nightmares, really. Like stories that Osirian and Doriath mothers tell their children about the wild elves that live in the forest. Was a thing. I know. It's gay, Johan. It'd be better if I had the updated map, but you can't see much on this map as is. It's gonna be so much cooler with all the resources, the different trees, the different strat models. Will characters die of old age or plague? So I think we talked about this before on J Monster stream, but I believe the plan is to have 4 turns per year. So it'll be very hard for, say, elven units to die if it takes, it's 4 turns for every year. So that's, I mean, 800 turns for 200 years. That will be way long enough for you to get through them. But obviously, I'm not sure if you can differentiate between elven, orc, human, dwarf lifespans in the mod. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. I'm not really sure. But how many Balrogs would there be? Well, Balrogs as a unit, I believe on huge scale they have 3. So at the most, I'm thinking because of their cost and the requirements needed for them, I don't foresee anyone bringing more than 3 units of 3. So 9 total. All right, a couple more minutes and then we'll get out of here. Last minute questions. Also, it is pretty impressive how big this map is. It's the same size as, say, the Reforged map. Same amount of pixels, 50 less regions. So it's an absolutely massive map for a somewhat smaller region. Balerion is probably about 2/3 the size of Middle Earth, maybe even less than that. So if you're worried about things being chaotic, they definitely will be up here in the northwest. There's a lot of small regions, a lot of close proximities, but there is a ton of room on this map. You'll you'll have no shortage of places to go. It will.
Will units have the same stats as in multiplayer? I believe so. I'm not sure you can differentiate the two. Will trade play an important part in the game economy?
Yes, of course. So if your faction doesn't have iron, you're gonna need to either trade for it, conquer for it, somehow get it. It would not be fair, I guess, or balanced if Assyrian over here, who has literally no mountains near them, just rivers, they have to have some sort of counterbalance to not having all that. So I'm assuming they will have a ton of resources, a ton of trade, good relations with powerful factions like Doriath, Feanor. Plus, each faction has different build chains. So, Assyrian, I think, has uh, 3 or 4 levels of marketplace, whereas someone say, I don't know, Angband, Aimbad, they will have huge blacksmith and forge and ironworks factories. But as far as markets or crop rotations or things like that, they will definitely be on the low scale of that. They'll need to trade, conquer, etc. in order to get that. All right. 5 more minutes. Last minute questions. Last question. Who's got it? This needs to be colored red. Gotta talk to Vision on that. I don't know if that's possible. I'm sure it is, but How many HP will Morgoth have? I have no idea. I think Sauron has. What does he have? 12? 10? I'm sure it'll be something like that. Would be cool if your resources determine your diplomacy. Well, I mean, they always do, or at least they should. If you don't have the iron needed for large scale army operations, yeah, go ahead. Take some from another faction, trade them some of your. Sell it, buy it, do whatever you have to, I guess. Oh, look at that. End of the turn, and I got all of these. Feanor, also known as the Byzantine Empire. And I think Vision had this issue too. As soon as as soon as you end the turn, um, the places riot because haven't done any of the haven't done any of the revels, anything like that. But let's see if I can get to March of Madros without it crashing. No, you can't even end the turn. Oh, yeah, we'll adopt him. There you go. There you go. As soon as people riot, lose it. So I think for archers, I think you just need to build the archery range, training range, or whatever. But all all military units will require the bare minimum of iron. So everyone will have some access to iron just so they can recruit. But if you want to upgrade to like the second tier instead of just having low tier units, you're gonna have to spend some money, get some resources, that sort of thing. Let's check out some of these. So, for example, if we look at, let's see here, we look at Syrian, for example. You can get the Rathoriel units. Actually, they're not. The Gellian units. Gellian units, low tier, mid tier, whatever you want to call them. Next tier up, Rathoriel. Probably, probably the Lancers as well. And then these special units like the LC, the Andihando, the Urfin Tower, the Mythern, the Kinsmen, the Ents, the Outriders. They all require Ents require the end building. The other guys require second level of barracks, armor, whatever you want to call it. Actually, while we're here, gotta look at these. Gotta look at these awesome new models that Stewie made. He's gonna be mad that I'm showing it, but I don't care. I do not care. Why do I keep doing that? Let's see if we can even do a quick battle. Might even crash. Oh, that's a shame. All right. If that's the end of the questions, I think we are good to go. Thank you all. There will be more in the future. I think we actually we got a couple more replays UMAT is doing. His last one, not so good, but there's many more on the way. A lot of 4v4s. I'm sure J Monster will have one on this channel at some point soon as well. So stay tuned to that. Thanks for joining, and Aura and Tuvala.